You've never met your mother, nor have you ever seen your mother. That man is the only man you saw bring you up. He's the only man you saw smile with you whenever you'd be alongside him. Yet on the 10th of Muharram, you do not have the opportunity to even stand alongside him. Nor do you even know when Shimr bin Al-Jawshan sits on his holy body. Nor are you even certain about the number of arrows that surround his holy body. How difficult is it for you? Those of you who've seen your father die will be able to shed the tear tonight. Because the hardest feeling is seeing your father in his final moments. Even if it's a natural death, it's difficult to see the father in those final moments. There are some of you here today who weren't there when your father died. You were across the continent. You were told over a phone call. How did you feel? Yet can you imagine when you have to gather the pieces of your father's body together? It's narrated in one of the ahadith. Imam al-Baqir narrates, and it's this ahadith. There is a story that when one of the ulama of the 20th century was sitting in the masa'ib of one of the scholars, when he heard this particular narration, they say he fell unconscious when he heard it. Imam al-Baqir narrates that when my father Zainul Abidin, when the poison began to affect his body, he narrates that he was suddenly in an extreme amount of pain. The poison had now surrounded his body. He said, I came near my father to console him. When I came near my father, I hugged my father's chest. You know where I am going. He said, MashaAllah, for those who are shedding the tears, he said, I began to hug my father's chest and I said to him, oh my father Zainul Abidin, in a moment you will see Rasulullah. And you will see Amir al-Mu'mineen, and you will see Fatima al-Zahra, and you will see Ali ibn, and you will see Imam al-Hasan, and you will see your father Aba Abdullah. He said, as soon as I said Aba Abdullah, I saw him begin to cry. He said, I looked at him and I said to him, why is it that you cry when I say this? I began to hug his chest. He replied to me, my son, when I am dying, you are on my chest. Whereas when my father, Aba Abdullah, was dying, do you know who sat on the chest of my father when I was dying? He went back towards the 10th of Muharram, remembering the way Aba Abdullah died. MashaAllah, brothers, MashaAllah, these tears will speak for you on the day of judgment. In Kufa, when Sayyida Zainab was sitting down, Imam Zainul Abidin suddenly walked into the hall. When he walked in where she was sitting down, his face was covered by dust. She said to him, oh my nephew Zainul Abidin, where have you been? She knew where he had been, but she wanted him to say. He replied, I have just gone to bury the body of my father Aba Abdullah. But there is a question, why is his face covered by the dust of Karbala? The narration says to us, this narration, brothers and sisters, personally I'm going to tell you, the first ever time I read this narration, I wasn't even able to continue with the narration. I have never read a more tragic narration than the way Zainul Abidin buried Aba Abdullah. This is a difficult narration. It's difficult to bury your father when his body is in one piece, let alone when his body pieces are across the ground. The narration say to us that Banu Asad had come towards Karbala. When they came after the 11th of Muharram, they came, their wives had said to them, you haven't helped Hussein in his battle, at least go and bury his body and the body of his companions. Banu Asad came towards Karbala. They wanted to bury the bodies, but normally when you bury a body, the head is with the body. All they saw were corpses which covered the ground of Karbala. They didn't know which body belonged to whom. Suddenly Imam Zainul Abidin walked right across them. They didn't know it was Imam Zainul Abidin. They had never seen him, nor had they met him. When he came near them, he said to them, what are you doing? They replied, we are not doing anything. We've just come to witness the battlefield. He said to them, no, tell me, what are you doing? They replied, we have come to bury the body of Aba Abdullah. We have come to bury the body of his brother Abbas. We have come to bury the body of Ali al-Akbar, of Qasim, and of his companions. He said to them, let me guide you about which body belongs to whom. The Imam hadn't seen any of their bodies. He had only known that they had died. He had not seen the state of their bodies. But what he said to them was, he said, I want you now to go and dig 3 separate graves. They went and they dug 3 separate graves. Those of you who've been to Karbala, I know that you are with me right now where I am going. They went and they dug these 3 separate graves. When they dug the 3 separate graves, they asked him, who does the first grave belong to? He replied, the first grave belongs to Habib ibn Mudahir. My father said that he deserves his own grave. Then they said to him, who does the second grave? He said, the second is to bury all the family of Muhammad and al-Muhammad. And then they asked him, who does the third grave belong to? He said, you have to bury the companions of my father. Then at that moment they said to him, there is a body which lays alone on the ground. He said to them, leave me with that body. I will go and bury that body. They narrate in the ahadith that the first thing he did when he went towards that body, you know whose body it is. When he started to walk towards it, he was wandering one way and the other. They asked him, what are you doing? He said, I'm looking for the finger which they chopped of my father. When his body was alone in the ground, he went and looked for that holy finger of Ammar Abdullah. Then again he started looking in the ground. They said to him, what are you looking for? He said, my father said to me that when you bury me, bury the 6-month-old on my chest. Because Ali al-Asghar was buried on the ground. His head has been taken away from him. He went to look for the body of Ali al-Asghar. He took that body. Then he walked towards the holy body. When he came towards that holy body, they couldn't hear what he was saying. All they could see... all they could see was the Imam taking the dust near his father's body. And he began to put the dust on his face. And he said, oh Abu Abdullah, what is life after you? Oh my father, I'll never recover from the grief of knowing that you were alone and I wasn't there to help you. Oh my father, my life doesn't mean anything now that I see you like this. They say that he brought out a prayer mat. The poets say, oh Zayn al-Abidin, why did you bring out the prayer mat? Is it because you want to go in sujood? No, it's not. It's because he wanted to gather the body parts of his father, Abu Abdullah. This narration I'm going to give you will go to your heart. Normally when you bury someone's body, you turn their cheek towards the side, so then they have their burial Islamically. Yet Abu Abdullah's head was not present for them to put his cheek on the side. He finished collecting the pieces of his father's body. We conclude with this narration. When he finished with his father's body, Banu Asad said to him, there is a body by the river Furat. When we come to lift the right side, the left falls on the ground. When we lift the left, the right falls on the ground. He looked towards the body and he said, Assalamu alayka ya Qamar Bani Hashim, Abu Fadl al-Abbas. He hadn't seen his uncle's body. He went towards the body. When he moved the right side, the left fell on the ground. When he moved the left, the right fell on the ground. MashaAllah. MashaAllah. May Allah bless the tears in honor of Muhammad and al-Muhammad. I promise you, brothers and sisters, the first time I read the way Imam buried his father, it's difficult to read. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala this time next year to allow us to be in Karbala next to the holy bodies. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Raise your hands, brothers and sisters. Raise your hands. Raise your hands in dua. اللهم ارزقنا شفاعة الحسين يوم الورود وثبت لنا قدم صدق عندك مع الحسين وأصحابه الذين بذلوا مهجهم دون الحسين عليه السلام. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to lengthen the life of our fathers and to bless those fathers who have passed away. We